In this video, you're going to learn how to taste coffee, expand your palate, and how to set up a cupping at home. Starting with taste. What is taste? You have 5 tastes your taste buds can pick up. Those are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, basically savouriness. And taste is one of 4 things that make up flavour. You have smell, which is responsible for the majority of flavour perception, touch, in this case mouthfeel, temperature and texture, and finally kinesthesis, which is the experience of chemical irritation, sort of like astringency when you have a really strong cup of tea, spiciness when you eat something super hot, and the stingy cooling sensation you get when you eat peppermint. An important concept to understand in flavour is we can only identify flavours we have learnt to notice, which is why when you taste coffee, you might only be able to taste coffee. A good analogy I just thought of is if you think of it like looking at a painting. If you're shown an image or a painting for a split second, you might be able to describe generally what was shown, maybe the colours in the image and the shapes. Look at it for a few more seconds longer and you can begin to pick out some details. You might be able to describe to someone the general gist of the image. Look at it for longer and you'll be able to describe the image fully and pick out all of the details. The same thing applies with flavour. The longer you've been tasting things and the more you've experienced, the easier it is for you to describe and pull out notes from coffee. And the best way to taste coffee is through cupping. Why? Because it's a very consistent way to brew coffee and it's a standardized method used all over the world. Every coffee is ground to the same grind size, the same water, temperature and volume is used, and the coffee is allowed to brew for the same amount of time. When you cup, you don't sip from the bowl like you might expect, but instead from a cupping spoon. I don't have a cupping spoon, so I'm just using a soup spoon. Works the same way. A cupping spoon is slightly smaller in diameter and slightly deeper. And the reason why you use a spoon is, for starters, so you don't have to pick up the bowl and spread your saliva over everything, contaminating all the samples, but also because it allows you to do this, like that. Slurp. By slurping the coffee, you aerate the liquid and spray it all over your palate, and this allows you to taste the coffee better. It aerates it. To slurp coffee, you just get a little bit of liquid on your spoon, put your lips against the liquid, and slurp, and spit it everywhere. Now that I've explained what taste is and how cupping works, I'm going to go through how to set one up and we're going to do a tasting together. So everything we need is here. I don't have any cupping bowls, but I do have cappuccino cups. They work the same way. Scales, probe to check the water temperature, spray bottle for RDT. We've got 3 spoons, so 2 for scraping the top, and our tasting spoon. We have this cup here, which I don't know why I got out. This cup here, which is for spitting into. Recently, the coffee industry has adopted the habit of spitting out coffee when tasting. So this is something taken from the wine industry. So sommeliers, when they're tasting wine, they won't drink the wine, they won't swallow it. What they'll do is they'll taste it, let it linger in the mouth, and then they'll spit it out, and that way they don't get drunk. Same thing applies here. I'm going to be spitting out coffee so that I don't get high on caffeine. You don't have to, but it's just a good practice because especially when you're tasting tons and tons of coffees, you'll be surprised how caffeinated you get. I've got 3 coffees that I'm going to be tasting today. You might recognize this one from the London Coffee Festival. and these two that I was given on a previous cupping that I attended a couple days ago. I've got a cloth so that I can wipe down my spoon in between tasting. So in between tasting, I will dip my spoon into hot water. So that's what this cup will be used for. This will be filled up with boiling water. You'll dip the spoon into there, take it out, wipe it on the cloth, and that just makes sure that none of the samples get contaminated. And then the obvious, we've got a grinder and we've got our kettle. And we have a timer as well for timing the extraction. So let's set up a cupping. We're going to take our 3 coffees and we're going to weigh out 12 grams each. So this is a 12 grams coffee to 200 milliliters ratio. I'm using the Wilfer Savart grinder, so I've set my grind size to 1 step finer than filter. So where it says filter, just gone 1 step finer. I think using a finer grind size makes it slightly easier to detect flavors and problems in the coffee. So I'm going to use a finer grind size. So you're going to take a few beans from that coffee and you're just going to grind them up. And that's going to make sure that you're set on the right grind size and the coffee that comes out in the end isn't contaminated by other coffees too much. Now that we've done that, I'm going to give this a spray with some water. Give it a good shake. And then we're going to grind those up. So that's the first one. Do make sure that you track which coffee is in which cup, and like I've done here, make yourself a page where you can write down notes for each coffee and just make sure you know which coffee's which. And we're going to repeat that process 2 more times. So I've ground up all the coffee. We've got a Tanzanian coffee in this one, Colombian in this one, and what was this? This was an Ethiopian anaerobic in this cup here. While the kettle boils, I just want to talk a little bit about flavor notes on the packaging of coffee. So these are often misunderstood. More often than not, the tasting notes that you see on the front of the bag is not going to be how the coffee is going to taste. So when this bag says mango, overripe blackberry and crystallized ginger, you're not literally going to taste mango, overripe blackberry and crystallized ginger, but rather qualities of those notes. So for example, in this, it might be the acidity of mango. It might be sort of like the mid note of overripe blackberry, and it might have a crystallized ginger finish. These notes are just descriptions of what this coffee has reminded the tasters of. And that's basically what you're doing when you're cupping. You're trying to liken the coffee to things you've tasted before. And this is where taste becomes subjective and different for everybody else, because, like I said earlier, you've only been taught to notice certain flavors. So the first note that comes to your mind might be a different note for somebody else, because we've all had different experiences and we've all tried different things. I'm just going to check the temperature real quick. I'm looking for 95 degrees Celsius water, and we're sitting at about 98. So I'm just going to let this cool a little bit. And I just remembered what I got this cup out for. This is actually for when we skim the top of the cups. So we're first going to assess dry aroma. So I'm going to give each one of these a sniff. Coffee 1, I'm thinking frangipane, sort of like a grape and milk chocolate. Coffee 2, not much going on, biscuit. I'll come back to that one. This one's very much sort of like fruit salad, strawberry. There's sort of like a caramelized apple quality to it. Dried fruits, sort of like raisin. So that's our dry aroma assessment done. Really liked these two. Not so much going on in this one here. Perfect. 94.6. So we've got timer at the ready. I'm going to pour this into each cup, making sure that we get all the grounds all nice and wet. We're going to leave those to steep for 4 minutes. I've got this counting up, and then at 4 minutes we're going to make the break. Going to assess the aroma, and then we will make our clean to skim off all of the remaining grounds. So we're at 4 minutes. Going to grab our cupping spoon, and we're just going to push the crust back 3 times. And then we're just going to clean off the top. And it's sort of a scooping motion. So you bring the 2 spoons together, you go all the way around, making sure just to skim the top. From the back round to the front, scooping off all that foam and the grounds into the cup. So while those cool down, I'm going to quickly write down what I thought of the break. So this one was quite caramelly. This one, again, didn't really pick up very much. I was thinking a little bit more chocolatey, sort of like a dark chocolate. And then this one stood out like a sore thumb. This one was pineapple completely. Very, very pineapple-y. So we're at 7 minutes, so these should be fine to taste. They should be cool enough. So we're going to grab our cup and spoon. Got our spit cup here. And all I'm going to do, take a little bit of liquid and slurp. So this coffee is definitely sort of very mellow, hazelnutty. There's not much, it's not muddy, but it's not clear. Don't forget, you're not just assessing flavor, you're also assessing the body. So how thick it feels or thin it feels in the mouth. Whether it's clean, whether it's dirty, sort of muddy, whether it's astringent. This reminds me of cotton candy. It's got this sort of sweetness and acidity to it that's really, really reminiscent of cotton candy, sort of like a strawberry or blueberry flavoured cotton candy. These are all relatively the same in body, although I think this coffee is slightly lighter, probably due to its origin being Ethiopian. Out of all of these coffees, this one is the cleanest. It's quite smooth on the back end. This one, not so much. This is very much a cloudy coffee. And there's some notes in there that I wasn't expecting to get, like a cucumbery note. That could have something to do with maybe underdevelopment. I'm not quite sure. There's definitely something wrong with that. This one, not harsh, but it's not clean either. With the combined high sweetness and acidity, this has definitely got sort of a hard boiled sweet quality to it. Okay, I think I am done. I've been cupping for about 15 minutes, and that concludes this casual tasting. So if you were doing this maybe a little bit more professionally, you would have a score sheet, and on that score sheet you would have dry aroma, you'd have clarity, you'd have consistency, because you'd have more than one bowl of each coffee. So where we've done one bowl of each coffee, you'd have maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 of the same coffee, so that you can check consistency across the cups to make sure that there aren't any defects. The only way you're going to get better at tasting coffee and cupping is by trying different things, and just to keep trying different coffees, different foods. The best way to do this is to go out to your supermarket, buy a bunch of fruits, veg, sweets, chocolate. If you look up the SCA flavor wheel, you'll be able to see all the kinds of flavors that you might expect to get in a coffee. And when you try a fruit or a nut or a chocolate, think to yourself, what makes this food taste like this? Think about the acidity and the sweetness and the bitterness, and how you can compare that to what you're getting in the cup. So keep experimenting, trying out different foods, different flavors, different coffees. And if you liked this video and want to see similar content in the future, subscribe, turn on notifications, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you again soon.